When I was a kid, I would wipe my ass with towels that were hanging up. This is something I've never admitted to a single person. I'm not sure at what age I stopped doing this, but throughout most of my childhood I had this OCD compulsion where every time I would finish wiping I would stand up, walk over to the towel rack and give it one or two more thorough swipes. I couldn't not do it. I felt unclean if I didn't. It wasn't until I got a little older that I realized just how fucking fucked up it was. My older siblings spent their entire childhoods drying their faces off with my shitty remains. I've been mortified about it for years, but I'm actually in tears of laughter writing this out right now. Edit. Nobody was supposed to see this. For every written exam in college political science, I spent the 90 minutes doodling and wiring nonsense only to get up and return the pre-written blue book copied from my friend who took the class the previous semester. I got a B, he got a C. Edit. This was over 20 years ago. After the first topic was exactly the same as the one from my friend's class, I figured pre-written was lowest effort for a class I cared nothing about. I found the supply store in town that sold the blue books, which he passed out right before he revealed the essay topic. When people park badly, I put gum under the driver's side door handle. It really irks me when people park like idiots outside of the lines or in more than one parking spot. When I see it and I have gum on me, I'll chew it and stick it under their driver's side door handle so they'll end up grabbing it and I don't feel bad at all. Edit. For some clarity, I only do this in cases of extremely bad parking jobs. If someone is crooked within the lines, that's fine. I used to steal coffee from Starbucks. A couple years ago I downloaded the Starbucks app and signed up for the membership to save my card and orders and such. After signing up, you get a coupon in your email for a free coffee of any make/size. At first, I didn't know you had to load it to the app after ordering, so when I went up to the counter and ordered my usual venti caramel frappuccino with an extra pump caramel and extra caramel drizzle, I proceeded to show the barista the code I had in the email, and he said, it has to be loaded onto the app. I honestly had no clue how to use the code, but instead of going through the whole process on the app, he just let me have the free drink. I took this knowledge and used it on other Starbucks throughout my town for almost a year. Now, I'm not a total dirtbag because every time I got a free drink, I'd buy a square of lemon cake and leave a couple dollar tip. I shoplifted over $6,000 worth of clothing in one stint. This was almost 10 years ago. I was a sales associate as a teen at a well-known chain retail skate store. It was a cool job, but my store manager sucked. Just rude and aggressive all the time, bullied the staff every day. I rocked it as a salesperson. I doubled my goals almost daily. Always at least met them. One day, the store manager got our numbers for the quarter. We were a little behind where we should have been, but there were also 2 new associates who weren't carrying their weight. Store manager blamed me for the numbers and accused me of giving discounts to people and allowing others to shoplift. I had never done either of those things. I was livid. So, one night with a group of 4 friends or so, one of which used to work at the store with me, we came up with a plan to raid the place to give the store manager something to actually complain about. So, I went into my shift on a Sunday morning, knowing the assistant manager would be hungover. I convinced him to take a nap out back and that I wouldn't tell if he let me claim the sales for the day. He didn't care about anything, so it was an easy yes. Cue my friends coming in, acting as customers with their beach bags as I'm working with regular customers on the floor alone. A customer friend would bring their purchase to the counter to ring out and have the security tags removed and then immediately go into the changing room and bag it. Bring it to their cars, wait 20 minutes, do it all over again. We all had lists of items we wanted, and I had mine piled on the counter ready to be taken. In 1 hour we completed the list and my friends left. The assistant manager came back from his nap oblivious. I wrapped up my shift and went home. We divided up the clothing and celebrated. Never got caught. I put my notice in the next day, and that was that. Old friend from work told me when the next quarterly report came out after I quit, the numbers were so bad from shrink inventory of clothing missing with no money to show for it, the store manager got demoted. I stole a book from the library page by page, then glued the pieces together at home. I was about 10 and I was addicted to read encyclopedias. I could spend hours learning about all sorts of stuff, staring at the illustrations and photos, and of course smelling the books. However, I could get my fix at my local library only as my parents could barely afford food for us, let alone buying fancy books. So, I became a regular guest at the kids/teenager section of the library. One day I couldn't get there in time, so I only had about half an hour to spend before closing time. Not just that, but they also had a brand new 400-page encyclopedia waiting for me on the shelf. It was love on the first sight. I felt awful because I knew that I couldn't do much reading in such a little time, and then there was this lovely smelling book with a montage of astronauts, cars and magnificent landscapes on the front cover just begging me to read it. Sadly, books like those were not buyable and time was ticking. I thought about taking it, but it was just enormous and I wasn't. I wasn't a bad boy either, I told myself. But what if I just take a few pages? That surely won't hurt anyone, and noon will notice it missing. That's what I did. The book was binded in a way that I could carefully rip about 5 pages out in one go. I wrapped the pages around my foot, slipped them in my socks, covered my socks with my pants, and I just casually walked out. The first time I actually said thank you very much with a big smile to the librarian, and she gave me that awkward "what the heck are you talking about" look. My 10-year-old mind quickly realized how stupid I was to say that, and maybe even my parents could be in jail for this, so I just rushed out, sweating and with my heart jumping out of my chest. Originally I wanted to return the pages at the next visit to the library. But as I was sitting on my bed at home, reading about the wildlife in Africa, the only content I got at the time, I came up with the master plan of repeating the process until I get every page. And the plan was working. Not just that, but I improved on the technique. I wrapped pages around my feet, around my arms, had to wear a long sleeve for that, and also kept a stack on my back, tucked carefully in my pants. I could get about 20 to 25 pages in just one day. I remember walking slowly like a robot on my way out as I didn't want to crush the pages too much. I couldn't bend in any direction because the pages were holding my limbs tight. After several visits to the library, the encyclopedia began to visibly shrink. So I got some paper from the photocopy room and replaced the missing pages with blank ones. My last visit was the sketchiest because I had to take the trophy somehow. By trophy I mean the hardcover with the astronauts on. There was no way to wrap it like I did with the pages, and it was too big to hide it anywhere on me. But I was so close to victory, I couldn't let it go. I had the shiny cover in its full glory in my hand. I put it under my t-shirt, on my back. Hands in my pocket, trying to hold the cover with my elbows. I was scared to the bone that they will catch me and send me to jail. I checked my reflection in the window. I looked like a terrified Lady Gaga with fake shoulder pads. But I was also shameless by this time. I knew I was an awful person. It was nearly 5 o'clock and every library goer left. The librarians were doing their closing up routines, so the front desk was abandoned. I just walked out without anyone noticing me. I glued all the pages and the cover together at home. The book was nowhere near as majestic as before, but I loved it anyway. I have never ever stolen anything else in my life, and I am so sorry for this. I leave fake parking tickets on cars that deserve real ones. I ordered a batch of them off Amazon and leave them wherever. Sometimes if nobody is around I make an effort and fill in all the details on it to freak them out before they get to the bottom and see it's a fake. Sometimes I just write something dumb in the comments and leave the rest blank. I've left them on cars at my university that aren't technically illegally parked, and on cars that are parked in no parking zones at my grocery store. I especially do it when somebody is parked in a handicap spot that's not supposed to know plate or hang tag. Local laws are sketchy on this. Some would argue it's misrepresenting itself as official and therefore illegal, but at the bottom of them they say they are fake. So others would argue the worst they could get me on is littering if the police actually cared enough to do something.